been vaccinated?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope.
That seems to be a big part of the conversation whenever you meet somebody now. They made me COVID coordinator of my agency, and that has been one of the most frustrating things that I've done over the past 20 years. All right, so good morning. I think Walter may join us sometime in the next 2 hours, and certainly when he does.
He should be on very shortly.
Okay,
And
good.
I think, Jose, are you recording now?
Yes, we are recording.
Okay, so good morning. Welcome to the Hunter Mill TAC meeting. As we indicated a few minutes ago, when Walter joins us, we'll circle back for his comments, and then we'll go back into the agenda. So let's start now with Chris. You're ready, sitting in your garage, to give us the status of the ongoing and upcoming Hunter Mill District projects.
Yep. Jose, can you give me the share permission, please?
It's on its way, Chris.
Yep, it's here. All right, so which document is it? This one. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Wells. I am the active transportation program manager for the County of Fairfax in the Department of Transportation. First on the agenda tonight is an update of projects in the Hunter Mill District. So hopefully you can see my screen. This is a Hunter Mill version, and I'll send this over to Jose and Shamali later so that they can have it for distribution. This is a Hunter Mill version of our monthly Transportation Design Division status report, which only tracks the projects that we are working on internally in the county, as compared to the other report I sometimes share at this meeting, which is our twice yearly report to the board on all transportation projects, which captures VDOT projects. So I went through last night and highlighted a couple. I know we have some questions about Wolf Trap, safe routes to school, so I will actually save that to the end and go over that in detail. But just a few things to highlight that are ongoing and under construction. Where is it? I did it from a slightly different version of the report last night. There it is. Second on this page is the Sunrise Valley Drive from Reston Parkway to Soapstone. As the community is well aware, we completed our projects to the east of there, from Soapstone over to South Lakes. I'm drawing a blank there. Thank you. Not only did we improve the trail on the north side of Sunrise, but we added a sidewalk on the south side of Sunrise for the first time. And those have been essentially completed for a little while now. The next step of that corridor is along Sunrise Valley Drive, going west from Soapstone over to Reston Parkway, filling in some of the gaps that are in that area. So some of the development that have come in have built their portions of this network, but we've been spending the past year or more figuring out, given what they've built and what the constraints are from utilities and everything in the corridor, and our desire to have a bicycle friendly facility, but also to match what's going on out there. We've been refining our scope, so to speak, for that project. So we're past that point now, and the actual hard design, past the conceptual design, has begun. We call that intermediate design. But with that, we've established the schedule for that. And so this is the first time I can report out on the schedule. And the schedule, the bottom line is that the cost estimate is currently $5.5 million, and construction is anticipated to be completed in 2024. The next one that's new is at the bottom of the page there, which I just put into the middle. Hopefully that's right. You can see my little cursor. Monroe Street, the southern segment from Monroe Manor to Dwight. That's a missing sidewalk on Monroe Street leading up to the future Herndon Metro. That one has also moved into the stage where construction can begin. So construction for that is anticipated to be beginning this year, middle of the year. That's 900 feet of missing sidewalk on the east side, a cost of 1.3 million. And then that construction process will take us into early 2022. Okay. Next of interest are the multiple Sunrise Valley cycle tracks, which is here. Essentially, we're designing a cycle track facility, a one-way cycle track facility on each side of Sunrise. So a cycle track, in case you're not familiar, is a parallel dedicated bike facility off-road parallel to the sidewalk. So there'll be a dedicated space for pedestrians and a dedicated space for bicyclists. Given the desire to minimize the impacts to the corridor and therefore, manage our construction complexity and costs, we're looking to actually build into Sunrise Valley by narrowing the lanes and the medians and build a one-way cycle track raised up on a curb adjacent to the road by, again, essentially leaving today's sidewalk and today's buffer in place. In addition, that project will be innovative. It'll be the first in the county to do a couple things. First of all, this road narrowing will help with the excessive speeding and the placemaking of what the future Sunrise Valley corridor aims to be with the redevelopment and everything. But then this is the public sector's ability to reshape Sunrise. From a safety point of view, all of the intersections will have what we call protected intersections, which have intersection modifications such as tighter radiuses, little islands that are like actually truck aprons, all of which are designed to channelize the vehicles safer and slower, and then also channelize the bicyclists and the pedestrians to protected crosswalks. That listing there shows it as from the Fairfax County Parkway over to Innovation, but essentially the project is broken in our listing. It's listed as a couple different segments. It essentially runs all the way from just west of Reston Parkway to that first or second side street there on the north, all the way over to the Innovation Station. So that's, again, that'll be a showcase project and one that no doubt will have other board members interested in seeing if it could be done to their 4-lane divided roads. Next on the list is Sunset Hills Fairfax County Parkway, just below here. That's been completed, but there's been some feedback on how things work. So that project relocated the crosswalk there. It's a slip ramp from the northbound Fairfax County Parkway off to Sunset Hills by the Target. The crosswalk's been reconfigured to be more visible, and it's had an addition of rectangular rapid flash beacons. There was some concerns about how things were oriented and how things were operating, so we did conduct a field check and did find that there were some minor modifications. One of the rapid flash beacons, the actual flashing strobes were off angle a little bit, so we changed that angle. And we're still going to relocate some of the signs that got relocated, like the wayfinding sign got relocated, and it needs to be on the other side of it needs to be on the approach to indicate properly. So there's still some minor tweaking that needs to go there. But the rapid flash beacons are intended to flash a few hundred feet down the road, so that as the Fairfax County Parkway drivers at say 50 miles an hour are merging into that lane, that turn, that exit lane, that they can see those rapid flash beacons and have enough time to yield. So we appreciate the community's input on that, and we think we've made it better. Next on the list is North Shore Drive here from Sycamore Valley to North Shore Court. Construction is 65% complete on that. I've gone out and looked at it a couple of times. There are some minor modifications to the bike lanes there that were needed, where we had to preserve trees. So that was, drawing the balance between community concerns over very large mature trees that did not want to be lost in constructing the sidewalk. And so where areas where we had bulb outs, we had to either shift the bike lane or convert short sections of those bike lanes to sharrows. But that project's not done yet. So once the project is finally done, then you'll be able to see the ultimate configuration of that. Okay, where did I lose my place? North Shore, Clark's Crossing. The next one of interest, which is coming up and has been waited for a long time, is Clark's Crossing here. Clark's Crossing is the last piece of the originally Walk Along Beulah effort, where we have built trails along Beulah from the town of Vienna all the way out to Meadowlark Gardens. But there was a piece on Clark's Crossing that was unable to be constructed originally due to right-of-way opposition. So the community was very persistent and kept on us to go back into there and find a design that worked both for the project and for the land acquisition to be successful. And that land acquisition was completed in March of this year. So that's a major milestone that's probably about 10 or more years in the making. So with that, construction is scheduled for this summer. Late summer, construction should start to begin on that. And that's 475 feet of asphalt sidewalk between west of Hawthorne Ridge Court. The other projects that are big and of interest to the communities that live there, and I have one email I need to respond to that someone was asking me about, are the South Lakes Drive Walkway projects, which have just begun. Construction is 2% complete, which is just starting. In this particular link here, this is Greenskeepers Court to Sunrise Valley, or I think that's the Twin Branches, maybe is where it ties into the shopping center there. We essentially looked at the entire South Lakes corridor from Sunrise Valley to Reston Parkway to see what were the critical missing links. We weren't able to fund every single missing link. There were some, for instance, across from that shopping center in the office area where it seemed to make sense for development to happen. But we did try to prioritize the missing links that would seem to serve the community best, that would seem to serve South Lakes High School best. So this is the portion from Greenskeepers to Sunrise Valley. There's another one somewhere. Oh, I missed it. It's not on here. Sorry. Like I said, I read this from another report last night. There's multiple segments. So there's another segment by Tanbark, by the high school. So I guess right, Greenkeepers is the entire limit. That's what I'm getting wrong here. Greenkeepers is the final western limit. So here it is right here. The links that we're working on are Greenkeepers to Soapstone, Whisperwood Glen Lane to Ridge Heights, and Harbor Court to Twin Branches. So those are the three critical missing links that project is looking to fill in. On Sunrise Valley, over by the Herndon Metro, the missing piece along the conservation area, which we call Hitchcock to Colts Brook on the north side. Construction is 90% complete on that one. And then the two Reston Parkway Dulles Toll Road on-ramps, the eastbound and westbound on-ramps. We are realigning those crosswalks and making improvements there, and including a signal. No, that's not this. That's a separate project. To these two ramps, the on ramps, the eastbound off ramps. I'm sorry. So the westbound on ramp is on the north side, closer to town center. The eastbound off and on ramps are on the south side, by Reston Heights and the Wegmans under construction. The improvements will be to the trail along Reston Parkway, but then also at that southernmost intersection with the signal, there'll be a crosswalk across Reston Parkway for the Reston Heights people to get across to the Wegmans. And then the last one, that's construction is noticed to proceed on that one. So construction should again be beginning on this summer for those Reston Parkway ones. The last one with activity coming up is Bluemont Way, adjacent to the town center. The link between the Discovery Pedestrian Bridge and the Reston Parkway. There's actually a trail off in the woods that's hidden and not as used as a facility adjacent to the road will be. So we're building a 10-foot wide shared use path along the south side of Bluemont there. And that is also scheduled to go to construction late this summer. So with that, I'll stop sharing. Where's stop sharing? Share, stop sharing. And I will also then just pull up my notes on Wolf Trap and answer where the status is on that. So we did get an email, and I think I saw you folks on the participants right now asking about Wolf Trap, Safe Routes to School projects, which is a crosswalk improvement at both the school and the next intersection up, and bike lanes in between. So the delay to the project is due to a drainage issue, but it's not the drainage issue that the public is aware of. There's actually two separate drainage issues. There's the visible above ground one and the invisible underground one. The visible above ground one, the ponding, that'll be taken care of. That's where the median is going to go. So once the median is there, that ponding will no longer occur. But that's not the drainage issue that has led to a couple months delay of the project. The drainage issue is the invisible drainage, the underground drainage, the pipes, the existing drainage pipes that serve this area. So both the pipe crossing at Talisman was plugged with silt and debris. We have to test. We're required by VDOT to inspect these facilities to make sure they're adequate. And because it was not, we had to take the time and do test hole data and on underground utilities. So we were able to avoid having to replace one pipe at Talisman, which was good because that would have had a conflict with an underground gas line. But we do have still the need to replace some of the drainage pipes on Beulah. And so that that's the crux of the engineering issues that led to a slippage of the schedule of that. So the schedule where we have now, just moving up to where we are today, that issue with drainage was resolved with VDOT in February and March. The pipe re-inspections were actually scheduled for this week on April 26th. And then we will resubmit the plans for the last comments in May. The one other outstanding issue, and we certainly owe the community an apology, the community had asked to see the plans. And I believe it was probably a year ago or last summer where I spoke to you all about this and said that it was just our first set of plans that the consultant needed to refine. And once they made those refinements, we'd get back to you. We apologize. The engineer on the project apparently did not get back to you. So his supervisor made clear that he'll gladly share those plans with you this week. He used the word Friday. So after this meeting today, I will get back with him and give him your all's contact information. And I believe he can just email you the plans as a PDF. So there's no need to come by, but then after you see them, if you'd like to meet with him, his name is Mark Van Sant. He's one of the section chiefs in our design division. So he will gladly, and him and his engineer will gladly meet with you if necessary. But he indicated that he apologized that you hadn't had the plans and that he wasn't aware of the request, and that he'll get those to you this week. So with that, I think that covers the agenda item on Fairfax County capital projects. Catherine, I don't know if you want to have questions now or later, or.
Catherine,
I
you're
think you're
muted.
on mute.
Catherine, you're
Catherine, I
still
think
muted.
you're-
Am I still muted? Oh, I'm
Now
so
you're,
careful.
You're good.
now you're good.
Now we hear you. Now we
Nope.
don't.
Nope, you need to press and check that.
I unmuted her. She should be good
Okay.
now.
Nope.
Don't know what's going on.
All right. This is what I'm going to
There you
say. Jose, why don't you try to mute and unmute me, and I won't touch anything on my screen.
You're perfect now. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm perfect. That's what I was striving for. I finally achieved it. Okay. I'm sorry, when I started up, I did not go over the dynamics of how we run these online meetings. So I wanted the people, the citizens in the room, to be aware of what we attempt to do. We have established an agenda with invited speakers. We would like for them to have time to make it through their presentations, because we have a very, we will end the meeting at 10 o'clock regardless. So we would like to have time at the end to go around the room and ask for citizen comment. But if we run out of time, that is what comes out of today's meeting, is we have a responsibility to go through the agenda first. So if you have a clarifying question about the presentation, you may make it, but we do not bring up ancillary issues or projects until the very end, when we have heard all the presenters. And I think Walter's joined us, am I right? Walter, did you want to step in here and say hello
No,
and
I
give
have
us your
joined. No,
comments
thank
for
you,
the day?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Just apologies for joining late. I was scheduling snafu, but anyway, all good now. Thank you. Just keep on going.
Okay. All right. With that said, we're going to move on to Tom. You were going to talk about the special projects update.
Yes, and I don't know, Jose, can you allow me to share screen?
I guess I can. I'll give you presenter role right now. It's on its way, Tom.
Okay. All right. Okay. There, share. Okay, and I want to share this one. Okay, can you see the Wheelie Avenue slide?
Yes, we can, Tom.
Okay, great. So I was asked to give a little update on the Wheelie Avenue at WNOD project. This is the new bridge that we're constructing over Wheelie Avenue, just north of Sunset Hills Road. The good news is we're into right-of-way for this project. We've essentially completed the design, and construction is actually going to start in May on the relocation of the Virginia Power towers. So you'll start seeing work to move. I believe 5 of those towers are going to be moved. So you'll see that starting next month. The final design was completed in December. We'll be submitting for our VDOT permit in June. At the same time, we'll be completing land acquisition. And then we anticipate that the utility relocation, the overhead, will be completed this fall. And then we have some other utility relocations that will take place after that. Those will take us to spring of next year. And then construction will start summer of next year, and it's about a 1-year construction. So we've been coordinating with a variety of stakeholders between the Nova Parks, which owns the trail, Dominion, the fire station project, which I'm sure many of you have seen, and then VDOT and some adjacent properties, as well as all of the utilities. And here's a picture of what the bridge will look like when it's complete. So this project is well underway. I'm very pleased that it's made it into right-of-way, and very soon you'll be seeing some earth moving and lines, utility lines being moved. The other thing that I was asked to talk about was the grid of streets. And can you see a slide that says REST and network analysis?
Yes, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Jose. So the grid of streets was included in the comprehensive plan that was adopted by the board in 2014. And what the grid is intended to do is break up some of the very large blocks in Reston to make them more pedestrian friendly, more walkable, and to allow for placemaking. So on the graphic that you see here, you see a lot of green lines. And those green lines are intended to break up. You're all familiar with Sunset Hills and Sunrise Valley, of course. But the green lines, for example, this is Reston Station Boulevard, which is going to break up the block between Sunset Hills and the toll road, and provide additional paths. So what that does is it allows another way for vehicles to get through, so they don't all have to be, in this case, on Sunset Hills. It allows for more pedestrian accessibility, so it makes it more walkable. Distances are shorter, so it's more pedestrian friendly. And then we also included 3 additional crossings of the toll road. So right now you have crossings at Hunter Mill, Wheelie, Reston Parkway, Fairfax County Parkway, Monroe Street, and Centerville Road. So the plan calls for 3 additional crossings in the Reston area. So one at South Lakes, one at Soapstone, and then one at Town Center Parkway. The Soapstone one is the furthest along right now. That is in the environmental process. We're hoping to wrap that up this year so that we can complete the design and move that project forward. The Town Center Parkway is the second project. VDOT has a conceptual design that's actually an underpass, not an overpass, because of the grades there. And so all of those connections work together to take pressure off of the main arteries, Wheelie, Reston Parkway, and Sunset Hills and Sunrise Valley. So that's just kind of a brief overview of what the grid of streets is intended to do. Most of the grid will be built by redevelopment. And so you'll see pieces of that near the Wheelie Station. Reston Station Boulevard is in place. On the south side, some of those pieces are starting to come in through redevelopment. And then over by just west of Reston Parkway, some of those pieces are under construction right now. We do envision that some of the pieces will be built with public dollars, so where there may not be a redevelopment project. And so there will be some of the pieces that will be added by the county. But overall, the goal is to allow for increased multimodal mobility throughout the entire transit station area. So that was my update, and be happy to take questions at the appropriate time, Catherine. And Jose, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Catherine.
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
good. Okay, I didn't mess it up this time. Absent any questions, we're going to go back to Chris. And Chris, I'm going to mention that there had been a hand up that I evidently missed. They wanted to know if the projects you discussed earlier this morning are viewable on a map. Is there anywhere on a website citizens can see them?
Yes, actually, I'm going to show that map here in a minute when we talk about access to the Silver Line. So
Okay.
that'll answer that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chris, we had Adam Rubenstein that had a question.
Yep.
I'll mute him in a second.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Adam.
The project you mentioned on Beulah, is that in front of a church, the missing link you mentioned?
No, that's actually one other missing link. So The original intent of the Walk Along Beulah project was to complete that missing link. The one I was discussing is off of Beulah on Clark's Crossing Road. The issue in front of the church was very complicated and unfortunately was not something we could resolve. We needed land rights from the church to move along that project there, and as part of those negotiations, they had a drainage problem that was also became our problem when we had the desire to build a trail there. And unfortunately, the only way to solve that problem was to run a pipe across the street for a few hundred feet through another residential property's yard. And we were unable to resolve those right-of-way negotiations because it just wasn't something that the engineering solution was not really something that the community members could accept. So there is not a plan right now to complete that missing link.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no more questions, Jose, if you could let me share again. I believe the agenda has two separate things. I don't see bus stops anymore, but I was asked about bus stops, so I'll talk about transit access. That counts. Let me talk about that. And I forgot, I got one other document.
Chris, Rick Hamilton had a quick question on the Monroe Street crossing at the Dulles Toll Road. Let me unmute him real quickly.
Sure. I'm pulling up something else too.
Rick, you're good to speak.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Crystal clear.
The Monroe Street crossing of the Dulles Toll Road has been under construction, one lane, for months now. Can we get a quick update on what's going on there and when it might be finished?
So that's not something that the county is doing. That's the developer there, Woodland Park or something. I don't. That is not something that I'm directly involved in. So unfortunately, no, I can't answer the status of that.
Okay, thanks.
We can check on the status and send that back to Sharmali to get up.
We appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, it's a long time.
Yep, it's disruptive. Okay, so a couple of things. So the agenda has me talking about pedestrian transit access to the future Silver Lines and capital bike share expansion. So let me do transit first. So sorry, click on that, share. Hopefully you can see that. So one of the things we've been doing in the county since the pedestrian program was created way back in 2002 was improving our bus stops. We conducted a comprehensive study of all of our bus stops. Basically, we had to find them because they were never put into a GIS layer, document them, document their conditions, document their construction needs, document their ADA accessibility. At that time, when that study was conducted, which was probably around 2004, less than 10% of our bus stops were ADA. Most of them were what we call sticks in the dirt. So since that time, we've spent millions of dollars and have improved over 500 bus stops throughout the county. What I have here in front of me is a spreadsheet, which is a lot of gobbledygook in a presentation, but this is working backwards in time. I've broken down the 100 mil district, and I'll just scroll down. In the time from the year 2020 through when we began making progress on them in 2008, we've improved 80 bus stops in the 100 mil district. So of 500 plus bus stops, 80 of those have been in the 100 mil district. And that makes sense. We're not playing favorite with 100 mil. We just have robust bus service in the Reston area with the RIB system and the Fairfax connector system. So, and serving the metro station. So that is sort of a backwards looking snapshot. Of course, we're also planning realigning our bus routes for the Silver Line expansion, and that work has had its own public process, and that's not something I'm involved in. But I can say that our our bus stop folks also then look at placing bus stops if there's any realigned routes or anything, any new stops, which there always are for those route changes. They also look at what's on the ground there for the quality of the stop itself. And then if there is a need for improvements, that will also fall into this program for future improvements. So that's briefly on bus stops. Unless there's a particular question on that, I will move on to the broader issue of oops, wrong button, access to the Silver Line. So if I click that. So this is the map that was asked about in the previous question. You can find it by just going to our webpage. It's got a long address up here, but if you just go to the county's webpage, to the Department of Transportation, it's either right on our landing page as a project map, or it's under projects. If you click the tab for projects, I can't remember exactly where I found it, but from a countywide perspective, you can see the cluster here in the Silver Line area. There's another cluster in Tyson's and Route 1, and then a smattering throughout the county. So again, we certainly have been planning for the Silver Line for years now, aligning projects there and working on them. If I zoom in to the area of interest, you can see this map. The legend is actually this tab here. There it goes, up and down. That tells you the status and what it is. The map is broken into linear projects or spot projects, or in some cases, when the line hasn't been laid out yet, a line might actually be a spot. But again, you can see the activity that's planned, the projects that are planned throughout the corridor. We've of course started with the Wheelie Avenue area because that was Silver Line Phase 1. So as I said, we've completed Sunrise projects, some access projects through there. Here's the future South Lakes Bridge that Tom was mentioning, future Soapstone Bridge. We've done crosswalk additions throughout the corridor, throughout the corridors, and then we're moving west to the future metro stations. So around the other future stations, we have other projects planned. We additionally have funded projects within the town of Herndon that came from the HAMSAM study, the Herndon Metro Station Access Management Study, and then also projects over along Innovation Station, where we have a trail planned to the north side, a trail that's coming along Arrowbrook, and again, intersection roadway widening. So the way this map works is if you click on it, you see exactly what the project is, what the project consists of, where it's located, who's in charge of the project. So again, that's the focus and the activity of us around the project, around the Silver Line upcoming.
Hey, Chris, it's Walter Alcorn. Could maybe you could demonstrate this just a little bit? Could you zoom in around the future Reston Town Center Station and there's okay, good, yeah, perfect. And if you could just click on, say, that green dot there. Let's see what that is.
That one's actually representing the maybe I clicked on two different things. This is the town center underpass here that came up.
That's the underpass. Yeah.
The green dot is probably the crosswalk. There it is. We added a crosswalk there as well. So there's a lot of overlay here of projects overlapping each other.
And what are those orange dots?
So those are other projects. Like this is the missing link that's in front of that tall building that's under construction. That was something originally that we were going to build, but now that the building's under construction, they'll be building it. This is a link that's actually envisioned from the developer well, that says Town Center again. So that's the Town Center Parkway. We actually have a developer who wants to bring a trail along the toll road. So that, because that's a developer project, I'm sorry, that's not on there. These were the ramp projects here that I was referencing earlier. Again, we added a crosswalk here, added a crosswalk here, have a connection to the WO&D that we were going to do, but now the developers are going to do. This is the cycle track along Sunrise Valley, but then this is the new sidewalk on the south side between Glade and Reston Association that we built.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Chris. That's helpful. And yeah, at some point, I do want to make sure when this and the other phase 2 stations open that we've done everything we can to make sure they're accessible.
Yeah, and that's actually how I was going to end this. You know, the way that we've learned in both Tyson's and Wheelie is, of course, we haven't done everything ultimately that we would want to do. We start with the funding that we have available. We prioritize the most critical missing pieces of infrastructure that we think will serve the stations of day one of revenue service, as we call it. And then we're also looking for developers to do their part, and we certainly don't want to spend taxpayer money on something that a developer is going to do. So what you have on this map is what we're currently working on today, but it's certainly not the end of the story. We will continue to work in looking at other things that may be needed. Of course, as development changes, different origins and destinations become critical that don't even exist today. So it'll be a continuing effort and a continuing story, but this is the level that we're at today. And then one other correction, actually, when I was talking about bus stops earlier, I underestimated our success. We've actually improved up to about 900 bus stops today. So that's a significant accomplishment. About 75% of our bus stops have been improved. So let me unshare this one and then share one more on the agenda, which is Capital Bike Share. I briefed this group before on the plans for Capital Bike Share expansion. Unfortunately, due to the worldwide supply chain impacts of the pandemic and steel tariffs and everything else, those stations aren't here yet. We're still waiting them. So we had originally intended that they would have been installed in, quote, spring, which would have been about now. We're now anticipating that they should be here anytime and that this installation will be this summer. But the stars on this map are the future stations that will expand out the little cabbie symbol, which is our existing station. So we've actually received the bikes. So we've got a couple hundred bikes, but not the stations yet. So that should be coming soon. And that's already permitted and approved and ready. We have poured, we're in the process of doing some of the concrete improvements. Most of these stations will be on street or on asphalt on existing hard surfaces that we didn't need to do any construction work because the station can just sit there in a safe space. But there are a few that needed some concrete work, some capital project work to be done. The simple ones of those will be finished here in the next month and ready for the stations. There's at least one that is actually a bulb out into the street, which includes some drainage work. So that one probably won't be completed till the fall. But once we have a firmer, once the stations come in and we have a firmer date on the lead time that it takes the operator to get those installed, we'll certainly make a press release and make the community aware of this exciting expansion of the Reston Capital Bike Share System, which, as you can again see from the map, expands it from the core areas of Reston Town Center and the Wheelie Metro to the south throughout the residential communities and to the north throughout the residential communities, and will really make for a robust network. I didn't bring ridership data, but I can say anecdotally that even though throughout the region, of course, Capital Bike Share ridership is down because of the pandemic, in the Reston area, it's actually been fairly healthy. Yes, it's also down to, to and from the metro stations, but because there is the ability to use the bikes to move around Reston, there's still been healthy activity even throughout the pandemic. So with that, I will stop sharing. And if there's any clarifying questions for me, if not, I'll hand it over.
Okay, Chris, can you hear me? It's Catherine. Yes,
we can
no?
hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I have a quick question for you since this is a 100 mil TAC, and I know this is Reston bike share you're talking about, but does the town of Vienna have any, do they participate at all in a similar program?
I think Chris has some connectivity issues. I see like a little hazard triangle.
Oh, okay.
We might have lost
Well,
Chris.
I'll just hold that. He was just wanted to get off the stage.
So Catherine,
Okay, I'll hold that question for later. If have we lost? I mean, Jose, can you tell if we completely lost Chris?
No, he's there. I think it just his internet connectivity is a little weak.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the next item on the agenda, and when Chris has, when we can see and hear Chris again, we'll bring him after the police briefing.
We did have two hands raised. I don't know if those are
Well, if he
from,
can't answer the question, then I think we're going to have to wait. So can we circle back to Chris when Chris can get back so that we can hear him again? Okay, I'd like to move on in the agenda to the, because I'm assuming they had to do with his presentation. The officer, I'm sorry, I don't see your name by your,
PFC Harita.
we'll go on to the police. If you could identify your name, please, pronounce your name.
Yes, good morning. This is PFC Brandy Harita.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I think Mr. Del Cid is going to be sharing a screen for me. I'm having a little trouble here. So if you give him one moment, there should be a slide coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go over some of the 2021 legislative updates in regards to mostly traffic safety, how they might affect pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. Again, I'm PFC Brandy Harita. I'm your Reston District Community Liaison Officer. Next slide. All right, so just a little background. I'm responsible for a lot of the traffic safety campaigns you might see coming out of the station. Right now, we are running a Just Drive campaign. So I had put the signboard out on Fairfax County Parkway over the Barron Cameron overpass or underpass there. And Just Drive campaign is in relation to the phones down, hands-free law, which we'll go over a little bit later. That's just one of the examples of the campaign. I do the public safety awareness messages. I was a former traffic analyst for Fairfax County. And I also do the general traffic safety consultations, speed calming, etc., for neighborhoods, schools, and businesses. And I work along with our SET unit here, which is our selective enforcement team unit, who is responsible for solely traffic enforcement in the Reston district. Next. Okay, so just a quick background. Every year on July 1st, the Commonwealth releases the new laws during a regular session bill. And then we have the special session bills that are effective the first day of the fourth month following the adjournment of the special sessions. And we also have alternative dates within that. And then, of course, the emergency acts, which become effective when the governor signs them. So we have a variety of different dates which this new legislation can hit. So you might see dates looking at July 1st, or things being signed in March, or even things becoming effective, such as the January 1st, 2021 hands down law. Next. All right, everyone is probably familiar with this process, but I put it in here, legislation being introduced. The lighter green, you'll see as an example, the Hands-Free Virginia, legislation's prepared, bill is drafted, it was House Bill 874. Studies are done, it's discussed and voted on. they're read and they're amended as necessary. There's the Senate process. Finally, it's sent to the governor for approval. And now we have Virginia Code 46.2-818, which is your hands-free Virginia law, which we'll go over a little bit later. Or next. All right, and next is that hands-free Virginia law. So I'm sure you've heard Virginia has become a hands-free state like many of our neighboring jurisdictions. It prohibits holding a personal communication device, which is mainly going to be your phone, but also people have tablets and computers. It prohibits manually entering letters or text, reading emails or text, and it is a primary offense. That check mark is next to primary offense, which means a law enforcement officer can stop you if they observe you holding the phone or doing any of these behaviors while holding a device in your hand. So this includes prohibitions on dialing unless it's for emergency. There are certain exceptions, but we're looking at dialing a phone, sending text messages, updating or reading your social media, doing video conferencing, watching movies, YouTube videos, shopping, checking the weather, playing games on the phone. So we're prohibiting all of this activity. It's because many of our crashes in Virginia and nationwide are from essentially distracted driving. And I do see a question, can a driver hold a device when stopped? A driver can hold a device when legally stopped. But that, I say that because there's a caveat. If you're holding that device while legally stopped, say at a stoplight, your attention is going to be on that device. So when traffic starts going, what are we seeing a lot? We're seeing people holding that device in their hand, looking down, trying to finish that email or text quick while traffic is either going around them, going past them, or stopped behind them. And then that creates other distracted driving, essentially violations. So be very wary of that. If you need to do something, if you need to stop and send an email, it's best. We have a lot of open parking lots, open parking. Don't stop in a turn lane to do this. Pull over into a parking lot. Focus on that and then get back on the roadway where you can focus entirely on driving. Next slide. Thank you. So the next slide has to do with drivers stopping for pedestrians. Now, we all think that that's something you would do anyway. This law 46.2-924 clarifies further drivers having to stop for pedestrians. They're to stop until a pedestrian were to clear the lane. That means not yield to them. So come to a full and complete stop until that pedestrian clears the lane. It includes any regular pedestrian crossing and crossings that are marked or unmarked, because we do see some without the hashes, see some crossings without the hashes in certain areas or at the end of a block, which you'll see the block under that says includes mid-block or end of block pedestrian crossings. This applies at any intersection also where the speed is not greater than 35 miles per hour. Now in yellow, you'll see that no pedestrian shall enter or cross an intersection in disregard of traffic. So we're still not to step out into traffic without checking both ways, making it safe and making sure that you have enough time. So we have to be careful on both levels with that. Next. All right, 46.2-816 includes updates for vulnerable road users, pedestrians, bicyclists, people using an electric or non-electric mobility device, animal-drawn devices, and animal riders. It is a Class 1 misdemeanor to operate a vehicle to cause bodily harm to any of these vulnerable road users when the vulnerable road user is lawfully present in the roadway. Just makes it Class 1 misdemeanor and puts more responsibility on the motorist to watch out for vulnerable road users. Next. Reckless driving. I've included some motorist only laws. Why? Because they do affect pedestrians and bicyclists and anyone else, any other legal road users in Fairfax County. So you might have heard that the threshold for reckless driving has been raised from 80 miles per hour to 85 miles per hour, or 20 miles per hour or more over any speed limit, as reckless driving remains unchanged. So it's 85 miles per hour for reckless speeding, or 20 miles per hour or more over any speed limit to be considered reckless driving. And then you'll see certain other details: any speed greater than 80 but below 86 on a roadway with a max speed of 65, subject to additional fines. So they've written that into the law. And then just a reminder, fines are set by the courts, excuse me, not by the police departments. Next. Question I'm getting frequently is about the decriminalization of marijuana. They have decriminalized small amounts of marijuana, making it a civil fine of no more than $25, and it is similar to a uniform traffic summons that you would receive for that possession of marijuana. Why does this affect traffic? Because impaired driving laws still remain in effect. Marijuana use significantly impairs judgment, motor coordination, and reaction time. That includes if you are a motorist, if you're a pedestrian, if you're a bicyclist, if you are on a motorcycle, or if you're on a bike or any of these electric bikes or anything assisted like that. So we have to keep that in mind going forward in watching traffic and watching driving behaviors. A DUID is driving while under the influence of drugs, and it still applies for law enforcement purposes. Next. All right, the Bicyclist Safety Act. Bicyclist Safety Act includes vehicles to change lanes in order to pass. Now you'll see the picture in the middle. You see two bicyclists in the right-hand lane of a two-lane road. And then you see the motorist, the white SUV, and the leftmost lane of that roadway. So the two bicyclists are riding abreast. This Bicyclist Safety Act does allow for two bicyclists to now ride abreast in a lane. The vehicle must change lanes, as you see that white SUV doing, not just simply stay a certain amount of feet away. They must change lanes in order to pass that bicyclist. That helps to ensure the space safety related to the bicyclist in the car. Another thing that was up under this legislative act was bicyclists being able to treat stop signs as yield signs and continue rolling through if they were to check and it were to be safe, but that did not pass. So the bicyclist cannot treat the stop sign as a yield sign. There were many arguments for and against that, treating the stop sign as a yield sign, such as the bicyclist momentum and the bicyclist not wanting to be struck from behind. But it was voted that they cannot treat it as a yield sign because they want you to come to that stop and look for what are often evolving traffic patterns. Next. All right, I've got some other kind of random updates on there. We've had a lot of updates this year, but DMV will no longer suspend driver's license for certain convictions, and I'll let you read through that. Non-payment of certain fees, largely motor fuel, failure to pay fines and costs, eliminates mandatory minimum of third or subsequent driving on suspended. Next. And then legislative updates in regards to secondary enforcement. So you saw on the phones down law that it's primary enforcement, which means if a law enforcement officer recognizes that you're doing that behavior that's against the law, we can stop you for just that behavior. This round of updates, yes, Mr. Wright, I see that. I'll come back to you. This round of updates moves a lot of laws to secondary enforcement, which means a law enforcement officer can still write you for these, but they cannot write you as the primary reason. Why am I mentioning it here? Because again, it does affect pedestrians, bicyclists, and other road users. You'll see it mixed in there, but for example, pedestrians stepping into highways where they cannot be seen has now been moved to secondary enforcement. And there are various equipment violations on vehicles, which we cannot stop for as a primary enforcement anymore. vehicle display of lights, brake lights, tail lights, illegal use of defective or unsafe equipment. So this just makes it, you have extra responsibility as a pedestrian or bicyclist to just weighing everything to make sure you're safe and that you're aware and that you're not walking, bicycling, anything like that distracted too. You want to be aware of your environment because there's a lot of different vehicles on the road now. Next. All right, I'll go over this really quickly. Just throw this on here. The laws restricting the behaviors, such as the hands down law, are aimed at lessening, of course, the number of fatalities, injuries, and property damages. The one thing I tell the community is be a good example to our youth drivers by exhibiting trends of safe driving, walking, and biking. That means heads up, eyes up, be aware of your environment. What do we see? We see a lot of pedestrians, a lot of youths on their cell phone for various reasons. But and they might be using a crosswalk, which is good. It's good, but they're not stepping into, and I just observed this the other day, they're stepping into the crosswalk without looking essentially both ways. They're distracted walking. Same goes with biking and same goes with motorists. Impairment includes alcohol and drugs again. So we want to set good examples with that. Slow down, heads up, focus on your primary task. Next. I mentioned this before. It still holds that traffic fines are set by the court, not by the Fairfax County Police Department. There's a lot of resources available out there. We have on fairfaxcounty.gov, we have a YouTube video that's 5 things to know if you're pulled over by police. You can see examples. You can see a traffic stop during the day, a traffic stop during the night. There is all of this Virginia legislation is online. If you use any of your search engines and just look up the Virginia legislation, you can see the complete, not just the summary, the complete legislation that has passed and when it has passed. Prepayable offense lists are online. And then, of course, if you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me. And I do see that there was a question, Mr. Wright.
Yeah, let me unmute him real quickly.
Of course.
Hello.
Bruce?
Yes. Hi, Officer Harita. Thanks for the presentation. I just have a clarifying question and partly a comment on requiring motorists to change lanes to pass a bicyclist. Most of our lanes in the county are 11 and 12-foot lanes. And since a cyclist operating space is about 4 feet and then there's 3 feet to pass, it's our contention as bicyclists that motorists will basically be required to change lanes to pass us in almost any lane. The code talks about a substandard width lane, and that doesn't really apply to a lane as a traffic lane. It applies to a lane being shareable with a bicyclist. So we want to try to get some clarity. When I say we, I'm with the Fairfax Alliance for Better Bicycling. And so I've been working with Lieutenant Long, I think it's Lieutenant Long at the Traffic Division, to try to get some clarity on this. And so we've been going back and forth, but just wanted to get your thoughts about that and what you think would be the proper behavior for motorists in a normal traffic lane in the county.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize that. Can you say that example again for me?
Yeah, so a cyclist operating space is about 4 feet. My handlebars are almost 3 feet, and then you need a little wiggle room. And then there's 3 feet to pass, so that's 7 feet. And most vehicles are 6 or 7 feet wide. And so I think I ride in the center of the lane because I don't want motorists to try to pass me too closely, which they do if I'm too far to the right. So it's the contention that almost all lanes are too narrow to safely share with the motorist.
Well, we wouldn't want to be sharing the bike lane with the motorists. That's why the law is.
Well, not really a bike lane, just a regular travel lane.
I'm sorry, a regular travel lane. Yeah, that's why the law is telling us now to go completely in that secondary lane to pass you and go around you to provide that extra space. We wouldn't want to share that lane. So upon approaching you, they are to, signal accordingly, wait, plan ahead, and to make that lane change, pretend you're a vehicle, you would do all the same things as a motorist to safely pass. which extends that extra lane space with you. So if you're riding close to the middle, now realize that that vehicle is going to go around you on that left-hand side to pass you. So if you're taking up closer to the right side, or if you want to move to the right side, realizing that there's a lot of traffic going past you, you're going to have to weigh that accordingly. But I'm thinking that this new law change is going to help give you a significant amount of space and a significant amount more with padding and protection when they're passing you. You're welcome to reach out to me offline. My direct contact information was on the screen there, or Brandy Harita at Reston Station. Feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss further. I also did used to work with Lieutenant Long as well, so I can have a conversation with him too about what he thinks with that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I think education is going to be really critical. So we're looking at what kind of publicity materials can be used for making sure people know about that. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Are there any other questions for the officer? This was an excellent presentation. I admit I'm the one that asked for it. I think a lot of people didn't realize that the laws had changed recently, and both the drivers and the pedestrians and the bicyclists all have responsibility in knowing what their portion is. So I appreciate it. Very well spoken. And also in the past at our Transportation Advisory Committee meetings, we've always had a member of the police department. For some reason, the last year it hasn't happened. So I'm hoping that your police station can have someone sit in on our quarterly meetings, because so much does come up about safety, and even usually people want updates on accidents, and especially conflict between bicyclists and vehicles, or conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions for the officer here? If
I
not,
don't
I'm
see
gonna.
any other hands.
Okay,
Jennifer.
I'm gonna circle back really quickly. Did we get Chris Wells back into the fray verbally? I see he's still on.
I think so.
Okay.
Chris, are you still here?
Your presentation.
Yeah.
Of course, the second you try to talk to me, my Wi-Fi goes down to 1 bar. Now it's up to 3 bars. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think there were 2 hands up for Chris. Am I correct that Adam
Yes.
had a question for Chris?
No, I'm sorry. He already answered my question. I apologize.
Okay, Rick, did you have a question for Chris? Rick Hamilton?
No.
Okay, can you
All
put your hand down then? Oh, you just answered everything. That's wonderful, Chris.
I moved my laptop. Hopefully it's a better signal.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you're still with us. We're going to move on to Steve Welsh now. Steve, are you here? I can't see the layout as well on my office. I see you.
I'm here.
Ready for
Hi.
the presentation. Terrific.
Thank you. And Jose, if you don't mind, I'm going to share something soon and go a little bit out of order, address a couple things, and then I'll take care of the screen. So I was asked to provide an update on a few items for VDOT. One is our Hunter Mill Bridge replacement project. The actual bid came in at just about $3.2 million. The contractor is Clearwater Construction out of Mercer, Pennsylvania, one of our pre-qualified contractors. We anticipate beginning construction, giving notice to proceed by our central office in Richmond on June 21st. So we'll get started on that here early summer. The second item is just a brief update on the Route 7 widening project. As you know, design is completed, right-of-way is well underway. There are 236 different properties that are impacted. We are 80% of the way through those at 185 parcels in some form of negotiation or acquisition. Utility relocations, there are 19 different utility companies that the construction companies are dealing with and we are dealing with. One of the biggest sections we're dealing with right now is 1,100 feet of 54-inch water line from Fairfax County Water Authority near the difficult run location. Construction-wise, we'll continue to have traffic shifts implemented in the corridor. Those come out constantly with our newsletter and communications department. We continue to work on the noise barrier construction, which will go on concurrently. And over the next, from here on out, with the utility relocations, then water line work and stormwater pipes, there will definitely be in many places where we'll be temporarily affecting the pedestrian facilities. So we'll have temporary pedestrian accesses to around the permanent ones that may exist, and as we build the new ones. And so with that, one thing I wanted to share with you, I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to bring my screen up here. So let's see here. So if everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
So on the Route 7 project, if you ever want to, you can go on to the e-news sign up. This is our website for the Route 7 project. You can go right into the front page here for it and put in your email address and do a sign up, and you'll start receiving a monthly newsletter that gives you monthly updates on the project itself. I was also asked about the I-66 or Transform 66 project, and it's the same thing. We also have a website for that location, that project, I should say. Within that website, under outside.transform66.org, you'll see the tab here for newsletters. You go to that tab for newsletters, and it has a sign up opportunity right here where you click on it. You give your email address and name, and then you can check off one or both, Transform 66 inside and outside the Beltway. So I was asked to just provide the information about how people could sign up for that. Then the last thing that I was asked to speak to today is, and give me one moment, is just a quick paving briefing overview. We are well into starting our season for the 2021 paving season, which runs from April through October. We got a little bit of an early start in late March because the weather allowed us to do so. Our annual budget is roughly 6 to 8% of the roads throughout the state of Virginia can be repaved based on the annual budget that we receive. That translates for our district in Northern Virginia is $108 million for the 14,000 lane miles we have on interstates, primaries, and secondaries in Northern Virginia. And one of the things I wanted to show you is on the screen, if everybody can see my screen, there's a statewide paving status map. Can everybody see that at the moment?
Yes.
So this is a live interactive map. You can zoom out, zoom in. So what you can do is on this map, anything that's going to be repaved this year, over here in the legend, has a red, it means it's scheduled, green means it's in project, or blue is completed. Since we're early in the season, most roads that are going to be worked on are in red. You can zoom into some of those. You can click on the road, and up will pop the VDOT project manager's name, their email address, the contractor that's working for them, even their phone number, and description about the project. The contractors are given some flexibility as to when they'll work on it. They're just given a window of time, let's say April 1 to May 31st. And they might have 4 or 5 projects that they work on. So they schedule them as they can orchestrate the moving around of their equipment. So if you have any questions about, if you happen to live on one of these roads and want to click, and you could send an email to that project manager and ask them when their road is likely to get paved, or during the paving process you have a question, or after it's been repaved. You have a concern you want to ask them about, you can do so that way as well. So this is a statewide interactive map. It typically comes out right around April 1st. And you can, like I say, zoom in and zoom out. And that can be found on up top here at virginiaroads.org. So with that, that's pretty much I had. And I don't know if we have any questions before I stop sharing screen, but I'll be glad to answer any.
Hi, Steve. Anne Marie McKinnon sent a question through the chat. Will sound barriers be installed along the entirety of the Route 7 portion that is being widened presently? And she had a comment, feel very badly for these many residential properties who have lost notable portions of their front or backyards.
Yeah, I don't know the answer about every single property. I doubt that at all. Typically, we do a noise. It does not every property. I can say that now. So we do a noise analysis that goes through a lengthy process that's approved in Richmond, and it's a very lengthy analysis of qualification as to how properties are, where sound walls go. And yes, we understand, with the project, hopefully the noise barriers that are being provided are being done so to help mitigate the sound from the traffic, from the construction, of the traffic on the roadway in the future. So. I don't know if you had any other questions. If not, I will, you can take the share back from me. And,
Okay, then we will move along here to Marcia.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. It's nice to see everybody again. I don't think I have a whole lot of news that hasn't already made headlines, but I'm not going to show you pictures or anything today and not do a formal presentation, but I do want you to pay close attention to some of the things that I'll be saying. We, as you know, or I hope you have heard that the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority does intend to have Phase 2 of the rail project ready for turnover or transfer to whichever word you want to use to WMATA on or about Labor Day. That doesn't mean that WMATA is going to take it at that point in time. They have a lot of additional testing to do. They have as many as 90 days to put for additional testing and inspections and to make sure that they accept the fact that the project is ready for operational readiness and revenue service. Their latest predictions, and I think if Greg Potts is on this, he probably will deal with this too, that their latest anticipation is in early 2022. Most likely, I think February is the earliest possible date that service could open. There is really good news for lots of folks in the influx of federal funds into WMATA is going to help us make sure that all of the stations in Phase 2 open at the same time as it has always been planned. There won't be, unless there's something major interfering with it, these stations will all open at one point in time. And for the folks in Tysons who've been worried about possible closings related to budget issues of stations there, that issue is resolved also. So that's really, really good news for everybody. If you, I don't have new pictures because we've been finished with the station exteriors and interiors for several months now. And we're only doing, at this point, doing walkdowns, but I wanted to encourage you, don't be afraid to take a look at what the stations look like. Just honor the fact that you can't go into the stations at this point in time. We're not even doing tours for them. It is it's dangerous, but it also it's a live construction zone. And so please, please, please don't get too nosy and go trying to get into the area. We've had the contractor go out and put new signs, especially at the Reston station, the Reston Town Center, and reminding people that no, this is not open. And we've had people that call us and say they've gotten off the toll road to go catch a train at Reston or Herndon, and we're very disappointed that it wasn't open. So we're trying hard to get that message out to everyone that no, the stations are not open. But it is possible for you to look closely at the stations without going into the construction areas to see especially look at the pedestrian pavilions and acquaint yourself with how you will gain access. In the next several months, we will be working closely with Fairfax County to help distribute the information on access to all the stations. Whatever Fairfax has, we will post on our website too, or post direct links to that. Again, at this point in time, we are really doing walk downs with everybody who has to inspect us. That includes the Washington Metropolitan, the Traffic Safety Commission, WMATA, Dominion Electric, various hosts of agencies that have to take a look and make sure that that everything is correct and in place. And of course, when you do punch list walks, you find things that need to be fixed, and we are finding that and trying to deal with them as quickly as possible. Over the years, all of you know we have had some major problems that we've had to deal with. Most of those are done with at this point. For example, the concrete panels that people feared were going to fall on their heads. It's been resolved, and we've covered it with a special coating to prevent water penetration. The contractor will be establishing an escrow account for WMATA to cover any future maintenance cost of any deficiencies that might show up from their work, not only there, but along some track sections. There have been some concerns about pads on tracks on the aerial guideway. They have been inspected and they are fine. There's nothing else to be done to them at that point. Our major challenges pending today include completing the tie-in of phase 1 and phase 2. We refer to that as N06. I have no idea exactly why, but it's the connection at the Wheelie Avenue station for phase 1 and phase 2. This has proven to be a very difficult process. And let me tell you why. Phase 1 was built by Bechtel. Phase 2 has a different contractor. The contractor for phase 2 chose to use a different system at the connection point, and this has been a very difficult situation, but we have been working closely with WMATA to remedy the problems, and it looks like it's going to take us one more outage of service at the Wheelie station later this year to complete the tie-in work. We don't have a date for that at this point. We have requested late May. We think it will probably be June before that can be worked out to take place, but we do desperately need that. The connection photos, which I should have brought one, but I didn't. It's an incredible electronic system tie-in that's really impressive. There is another problem that is a challenge for us, and some of you I know are aware of this, especially the county folks and Walter. Their problems have surfaced with the pavers in the rail stations. They have this wonderful white effervescence that shows up because the grout is allowing water penetration into those pavers. It is a big challenge for the project. We have directed the contractor, Capital Rail Construction, to replace the grout throughout the system, and they will be doing that. And they have been told the time frame needs to meet our timeline for turnover. You'll probably hear more about that. I don't think there's been much media coverage of it, but I didn't want you to get caught by surprise on that. Some major achievements that have happened: the windscreen at Dulles Airport, which is 300 glass panels. It's in front of the rail station to protect passengers from wind and a little bit of rain. It's kind of a tunnel, the way the winds blow through the airport area. It is finally finished. It has 300 heavy glass panels. It was installed by a subcontractor, Slosser, who are local, and They've done an amazing job, and they are finally finished with it. And if you go to the airport, if you are at Dulles Airport and you look from the terminal across to the station, what you see is a reflection of the terminal in that huge glass panel. It's rather dramatic, and it will be a major statement for the tie-in for the service being provided at Dulles. I think there's another major thing that several people have inquired of us lately. Charles Stark, who has been the vice president in charge of construction of phase 2 of the rail project, has been here for 7 years, and he has announced that he is retiring as of the 4th of July. It seems that we like Labor Day and 4th of July to set milestones this year. Charles will be leaving at right around the 4th of July to retire. He is retiring, and he has been a great communicator for the purpose of the project, and we will miss him. But I want to assure the public that his duties are being taken over by a gentleman that many people in this room may know, Roger Nazahara, who, and pardon me if I mispronounced Roger's last name. Roger is the chief engineer of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, and his most recent claim to fame is that he has been in charge of Project Journey at National Airport, which is the addition of additional space in the historic terminal there. And I think there was a huge press response to the soft opening of that last week or the week before. And he is now working closely with Charles to coordinate the transition. He has been working as part of the Airport Oversight Committee for the Airports Authority over the project during the last 7 years. He's been with the authority, I think, 14 years, but I'm not sure about that. That he is already working on the project with Charles and working on the transition for it. Another major thing that we completed that I forgot to mention is that I know you'll all remember that in the early part of phase 2, we had a year-long delay on construction because we opted to follow the changed stormwater protection restrictions that came into place after we had designed the project. And our stormwater ponds all along the Dulles corridor, and including those at the airport, all follow those regulations, which provide increased benefits to Chesapeake Bay by not only retaining stormwater, but by retaining it and treating it before it's released into the streams and valleys. That is a finished project, except we have to plant some more trees or bushes later this month in the proper landscaping season. But we're really, really proud of that. At this point in time, I'm happy to answer questions. I know people are anxious to ride it. We hope that we can depend on everybody to get behind joint efforts that you'll see coming from the Airports Authority, from WMATA, from the business community, to encourage people to ride transit when these stations open and to go ahead and ride now. The drops in ridership have been very hard for both the Airports Authority for planes and for WMATA for trains, as the pandemic has taken its toll. And we do have to do a lot to rebuild people's faith in all the safety precautions that have been taken by WMATA and the Airports Authority to ensure that riding transit is a safe thing for people to do again. Be happy to answer any questions.
Marcia, it's Catherine. It's wonderful to see you again. And even though it's on a Zoom call, we've missed you at some of the presentations. As usual, you did a great job of updating us on the project. Are there any questions for Marcia? Otherwise, we'll move along to the agenda.
Yeah, Marcia, it's Walter Alcorn. Hi there. I'm
Hi
gonna
there,
follow up
Walter.
with you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll follow up with you separately.
Yeah, and we're working on something for you.
Okay, thank you.
Your staff request.
I don't see
Okay,
any other
Maybe we can
questions.
do it on bicycles.
I'm in.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
thank you, Marcia, and hope to see you at the next meeting. We're going to move on to Greg. Are you from WMATA? You there? Hi, Greg.
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. This is Greg Potts from Metro, and I've got some slides. Oh, there we go. I got the share screen now. So just give me a second while I pull up a couple slides. Okay, can everyone see the screen? All right, great.
Yes, yes.
So good morning, everyone. It is good to see you again. I think I was here 3 months ago. I'm just going to give a very short update on Metro. I've got about 5 slides to run through. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is really good news. So this is on the budget. A lot of you, of course, recall that we proposed a budget for FY22 that had some rather substantial cuts to service as well as layoffs, and it was essentially something that no one wanted, and it included a lot of very drastic cuts, including the closure of 5 Silver Line stations, which I know this group would not have liked at all. So we received a lot of feedback on that, of course. And the good news here really is that the federal government stepped up and provided funding to help us. And so that's really the point of this slide. So you can see here that the funding gap for FY22 was closed by federal relief. There was a last round of funding that was called CRISA, and that was used. And then also there was funding from the next round, which was passed over the winter break, the American Rescue Plan Act. And that essentially helped to cover the difference. So that was really good news for Metro and for its customers. And this is just a very, very quick slide on the public input. We actually received more public comments than we've ever received in the past 10 years. So there was, I mean, it's for obvious reasons, there was a lot that was on the plate. There was a lot of substantial cuts, but we received 22,000 comments, which is pretty amazing. And there was a pretty diverse set of comments. We held a lot of virtual public meetings. You could do your comments online. So it was a very robust public input session for sure. Unfortunately, it was virtual, but it worked pretty well, I think, all things considered. This is just a quick summary of service. So it's pretty straightforward. It's basically running the same service on rail that we're running now. So it's the status quo. And if you compare it to pre-COVID on the rail end, it's about 80% of what we were running before. So we're going to continue to run that service for the rest of FY22. And for this group, the Silver Line, that essentially means 12-minute headways on the weekdays and 15-minute headways on the weekends. And on the bus end, there's going to be a little bit of enhancement. It's on a percentage basis, it's about 85% of pre-COVID. We're going to try to increase certain lines that are experiencing a lot of crowding. We found actually that there's a lot more demand on the bus end than on the rail end. So we're trying to restore some of that service for those who need it, particularly the frontline workers and those individuals who rely on transit. So quick Silver Line Phase 2. I won't go into a lot of this because Marcia actually covered quite a bit, but this slide is taken directly from a slide that we gave to the Metro Board. The graphic on the right might be helpful for you all. As Marcia was saying, she went through it in a lot of detail. We're working through a lot of the final issues. MWA manages the project, and they are with us working through a lot of the final issues there, all of the safety, testing and all that. And they have said that they are going to achieve substantial completion by Labor Day of this year. And so when that happens, then a few things happen for us. The first thing is we have to do operational readiness testing, and that's the first area there. And that is a period that lasts, there's no set duration, but we assume 60 days. So that's about a 2-month period. And then once that is achieved, then we reach what's called operational readiness testing. So that's essentially the point where it's with Metro, and then we do all of the things that we have to do to get ready for service. So that is a 90-day period. And to give you some example, we have to onboard all of the assets. There's a lot of training, first responder training, that sort of thing, safety certifications, policy updates, and then all the things that you would expect on the final station mobilization. So that includes all the marketing of the stations, that includes the map updates. If you think about it, you have to update literally every single map in the entire system, which is pretty substantial. So every single map in the whole system throughout DC, Maryland, Virginia, on the trains and in the system. So that's, that alone is a pretty big task. So there's a lot of things that we need to do. And again, that period is about 90 days. And so you can see there with the graphic, that puts us at the beginning of next year. So our general manager has said that he expects and hopes that revenue service would start up around February of 22. And so that is the hope and the goal, but obviously it depends on the schedule of MWA, and we're of course working with them really closely. So I thought that graphic there would be helpful. And we do periodic updates to the Metro board, and I can share with the group with Shamali once that's public. I think there's a next update that's coming up, I believe next month. So those happen every at least 2 months or so. There's an update from the Metro team on what's happening on Silverline Phase 2. So I can share that for your info. Final slide. So this is a little bit on recovery. Obviously, we've been doing a lot in this space for some time now. From the very beginning, it's kind of broken out there on how we're protecting the public as well as the Metro workforce. And those are both very important. There was something that's kind of exciting that we got. We got a grant from the federal government, from the FTA, which is a pilot for improved air filtration and air purification. So if you know, there's something called MERV filters, and I don't claim to know everything about it, but it's essentially, how good the air quality is, basically. And the higher the MERV rating, the better the quality. And so this is a pilot to improve the air filtration both on the rail cars and on the buses. So that's an exciting thing. We're working through that. It's already at a good level, but it's obviously, we can improve it. And that's both, that's for our customers, that's for safety. And then just things that we've been doing all along. There's been routine cleaning, there's been on-demand cleaning. We have a requirement for facial coverings, of course. There's hand sanitizers available. There's touchless fare collection. I think I mentioned before with this group that you can now use an app with your iPhone that essentially becomes a virtual smart chip card. So your phone is a smart chip card. You can scan it, and that eliminates you having to touch things. You don't have to touch the fare vending machine or touch anything else. It's all on your phone. You can just scan it. It makes it easy. And we should be rolling out the app for Android in the near future. That's coming up too. Right now it's just with Apple, but it's going to be Android soon. They're working on that. And then with the workforce, we do mobile testing. We're obviously working with the state and the locals on vaccinations for the frontline employees for Metro, safety kit distribution, and then also as Metro employees go back to work, we have safety guidelines for them, just like everyone else. And then just the last thing, Marcia mentioned this. I know Mr. Alcorn, this is important, to him and to our board. We're obviously encouraging ridership. There's going to be a period where, really now the board is going to be discussing a lot of those efforts, how to market that. Safety is obviously very important, but at least right now, a lot of folks just aren't riding for obvious reasons because they're teleworking. So as businesses do come back, and just for sake of argument, let's say, that starts to hit a lot more after Labor Day, after the summer, then Metro is going to be working with the region quite closely to encourage ridership. We've worked a lot with the Tyson's partnership, for example, and the Nova Chamber, and we'll continue to do that. And to hear from local businesses on what their plans are, that's very helpful. And also with the local jurisdiction. So, we're all in this together, and we want to, of course, encourage ridership and ensure the public that Metro is safe. So that's very important. And that's going to be something that I think you'll be hearing about more in the near future. So that is my high level, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Greg. Does anyone have questions for Greg?
Catherine, we do have one question in the chat from Kelly Wessenhoff. So she says, for Greg, I've been using Metro a bit and I rarely see Metro employees walking through the train or the station, which with the mask mandates would encourage compliance. I've seen a number of riders without masks and no one questioning it. What is the role of the Metro employee in this regard? People aren't coming back unless they see that Metro is taking that seriously.
Yeah, so this is kind of a tough one. Our general manager has talked about this quite a bit. He has stated publicly that we don't want to be in the business of enforcing to the level that it would engage in a confrontation. I think some of the language that he has used, that it is a social obligation for everyone to use and to do, that you owe it to your fellow riders, Metro employees owe it to themselves. So that's what he stated publicly. I think we've seen pretty good compliance. I think, there's obviously examples. I think what we can do is encouraging, the marketing is important. And so absolutely, I agree. Metro employees need to lead by example. So of course they need to be wearing masks. If they're not, they should. So that's obviously very important too. But, again, we don't want to get into the business of a confrontation, because that's something that has played out nationally, and that gets to be a little bit of a problem. But he has, said this is a social obligation. We're all in this together. So if that's something that, we've seen, we obviously want to look at it. But, I agree, that's something that we're going to have to watch, because it's extremely important.
And
Okay, thank you. I see, Rick, you still have your hand up. Do you still have a question, or do you want to put your hand down? Rick
is unmuted.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything. I don't.
Okay. Do you know how to put your hand back down then? We're trying so hard not to ignore you.
No, I appreciate that. That's weird. The hand doesn't seem.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, if you
there
don't
it
have a
is.
question,
Never
yeah,
mind.
well, I'm going to move on. And I see Bob has a question. Bob, if your question is for Greg, I'm going to take it. Otherwise, there's something I wanted to insert into the agenda. So did you have a question for a clarifying question from Greg?
Yeah, Catherine, it's for Greg, and it's actually Jim's question. We're both sharing the phone. Thanks for a great meeting so far.
Certainly.
So the question is related to, we've seen commercials from Metro regarding the fogging, and it'd be great. And I know this is not necessarily transportation related, but if Greg could share with Walter what equipment they're using to fog the rail cars for use in other Fairfax County facilities, that would be outstanding. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I can find out. I don't know the exact technical information there, but I can find out and I can share. Of course, no problem.
Okay, I noted that Howard Springsteen is an attendee, and Howard actually represents the town of Vienna, so he should be up here with the presenters. Howard, do you have something you can report on the town of Vienna?
Is my mic free?
Yes, you're good.
Hi. I know our new police station is going along well, and we just approved $3.7 million worth of sidewalks from the Maud Robinson Trust on Monday night.
Exciting.
So we're moving at a pretty good clip. This Maud Robinson was a lifetime resident of Vienna, and she left us a bequest of about $9 million to put sidewalks on those streets that have curb and gutter, no sidewalks. So we're putting sidewalks down, but we are getting a lot of pushback from residents that don't want sidewalks. So it's a challenging exercise. Everyone wants a sidewalk on your side of the street, but not my side of the street. And we got beat up pretty badly Monday night.
So Howard, isn't local government great?
So Walter, you want a sidewalk on the other side of the street?
No, thanks. I live in a townhouse community, so we're good. But thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's good to, Howard, are you going to be our representative, our ongoing representative from the town of Vienna going forward?
Yes, assume if I win re-election on Tuesday, yes, I spoke to the
Yeah,
mayor, that's the case.
I was going to bring up that there is an election on Tuesday, May 4th, town of Vienna for town council members. So be there or be square. Don't let our election officers be there all by themselves.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
thank you very much.
certainly. Okay,
I think Bruce has a new hand. Catherine.
okay, don't see your hand, Bruce, but if you have, do you have a question about EMWA or in general?
Well, no, it's in general. I have a question for Tom, actually a couple of questions. So if you want me to hold off, I can do that.
If you could hold for a minute, I just wanted to make sure, since Walter joined us late, that I want to make sure Walter has time for comments before our 10 o'clock cutoff. Walter?
Yeah, I'm actually fine on comments. I think we covered an awful lot today.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody with their presentations. I mean, at this point, I'd mainly just be interested in any of the attendees who might have questions or concerns and hear those.
Okay. Bruce, did you want to go ahead with your question then?
Yes, Tom, regarding the bridge across the Wheelie Avenue for the WNOD Trail, I had talked to, and I can't remember her name now, the young lady who was overseeing that early on, about a proposed temporary detour during construction. I was very concerned about it because it meant users of the trail going to Sunset Hills, pushing the ped button, waiting for the signal, only crossing when it says walk, which is a very short period of time. So do you have the latest on what's planned for the detour? And if not, I'd be glad, if you could send me information, I'd be glad to take a look at that and maybe follow up later.
So the detour is, as you have described, it will be to reroute the trail traffic to Sunrise Valley. I'm sorry, to Sunset Hills during the construction period.
Well, that's not going to work very well. As you know, that interval, unless VDOT changes the timing, there's just a very short period to cross because that signal, if you push it, and a lot of people don't, once you've got a green, it's just very short. So that's my concern, and I'll maybe express that later. So thanks for that information.
Well, we can look into the timing of the walk signal, but Sunset Hills Road has a pretty significant green cycle. So if we need to adjust the walk phase, we can do that. But that is the alternative route, is to use Sunset Hills.
Thank you. And a quick second question on automated speed enforcement in school and work zones. Do you know what the status is on that? I know there's a committee looking into it.
There is, and they're preparing a report for the board. It's a multi-agency group that's working on that. So I don't have a status update, but I know that they're working to prepare some recommendations for the board.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any, again, we see hands up. Bob, I think you've already asked your question. What would be helpful to all of us in the future, when you sign in, there's a place to say company. If you would indicate in there what group you represent, if there is any group that you represent, that would be helpful, especially when we're on certain speakers. I happen to know that Bruce is with the Bicyclist, as Kelly represents multi-transportation, but it would be helpful if you could put in there so that we knew what organizations or communities might have a special interest. So
I think Adam had a new hand.
Adam, did you have another question?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go for it.
Thanks. It's for a couple questions for Steve. First one, or maybe Chris, this one would be for the trail crossing for the W&D at Sunset Hills. I feel is kind of unsafe. I know you recently put in flashing beacons at the Hunter Mill Road intersection of the W&D. Have you looked at possibly doing the same thing for the Sunset Hills Road intersection there with the W&D?
So I believe the Hunter Mill one was actually done by Nova Parks. Yeah, we don't have a plan at the moment to add any additional beacons at those crossings, but there has been talk both from the Trails Committee representatives and recently from some elected leadership about the need to focus some improvement efforts on the most high risk um, crossings of some of these major trails. So, but in the short term, the answer is no. Now, that section of Sunset Hills is being paved, and we are proposing bike lanes between the post office and the WO&D crossing there. So that will have the narrowing effect of the striping. So that should help reduce excessive speeding through there, the perception that the road is narrowed. So that might be a slight improvement for that crossing. But no, we don't have any projects in the near term to add any flashing beacons. And I'm not aware of Nova Parks having any plans either.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, I'll just save my other question for next time. So I know we have a few minutes left. I'm sure people have other questions, so I don't want to monopolize the time here.
Okay, well, at this point, we have about 3 minutes left, and we have to respect the time of the presenters that came here today. We try for a 10 o'clock closure. Are there any, best thing for me to ask, is there any new issue that someone would like to bring up? We've already discussed it today. A reminder, in future meetings, you can also pose a question through the chat, which will give us an opportunity to bundle questions that might be on the same item. Again, when you sign in for a meeting, if you can put your special entrance or your representation where we have the title of company, that will help us know what organizations or concerns might be coming up during the meeting. When you raise your hand, try to put it down again when you've asked your question, so we don't keep spending time. That's hard. We're all trying to learn how to do Zooms and WebExes. If you want anything put on the agenda, please contact Walter's office, and we go over the that's something we'll consider for a future agenda, but at least it gives us an opportunity, something that might be perking. And right now, of all the presenters, are there any meetings in the next 90 days, any public meetings that we should be aware of and that we should try to participate or support? Chris, Tom, anybody? Walter? Anything transportation related?
I think it maybe have been mentioned earlier, the tour to Hunter Mill. If you've already signed up and registered, you're good. But we'll be doing it again next year. So anyway, nice little bicycle event coming up in just a couple of weeks.
Cool, that's terrific. Okay, well, you all going to go ahead and indicate that the next scheduled meeting is July 28th. That is a Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. We hope to see you there. I hope eventually to see some of you in person. I'm hoping that we can at least move to a hybrid at some point in time this year. So everybody stay safe. We have about 2 minutes left. Does anybody have any last minute questions or concerns they'd like to insert here?
Hey, Catherine, this is Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Just a quick reminder that Bike to Work Day is May 21st. So,
thank you, Tom.
So we are going to have a few pit stops, not nearly as many as we did previously. Chris, you may want to just mention those, but just if you don't have it on your calendar, Bike to Work Day on May 21st.
Yeah, Tom, thanks for the reminder. It's a socially distanced Bike to Work Day this year. It's a little different. It's not going to be large celebrations at the pit stops. You need to sign up for a time of your estimated arrival, and it's really just going to be picking up your shirt. The different thing also is the acknowledgement of many of us remote working, and so even though you may not be biking to work, you're encouraged to take that mental health break and leave your garage and go ride your bike to the pit stop and take that mental health break and get out for that day. So you can just Google Bike to Work Day 2021 and hit the registration there.
Chris, while I have you, we haven't heard anything from Safe Routes to School for some odd reason. The last year we haven't heard from them. Is there anything going on? Because usually there is something going on with Safe Routes to School this time of year. No? Come on, Dad, Chris Wells, you should know about that.
I think his internet connectivities.
Oh, we lost him again.
Connectivity
Yeah.
problems.
So Kelly or Bruce, are you aware of anything that Safe Routes to School is doing right in the spring now that the kids are back in?
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, that hasn't started up yet. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
maybe
the
in the next agenda, we put something on there.
Okay.
I think
we'll put it
International
on the
Walk to
next
School
agenda.
Day is in the fall.
Okay, because we haven't had our Safe Routes person for a while. Okay, Walter, do you want to conclude the meeting for us?
No, just thanks, everybody. Thank you, Catherine, very much. Appreciate all the information, and let's keep it going. I appreciate everything everyone's doing here.
Okay, everybody stay safe and we'll see you virtually in July, if not before.
Bye, everyone.